Okay. Let's go. Where did I stop? Okay. Flow. Flow is related to... Okay, so I watched a short, like, 10-minute YouTube video that talked about flow, which is all fascinating and stuff, so I just wrote down the notes from it. It's dopamine related. It gets triggered by novelty, complexity, awe, and getting answers right. Risk taking. Okay, so let's go one by one. Novelty. If it's something new, if you feel like you're doing something new, it helps you or learn something new. It helps increase focus to absorb the information. Complexity. If you need to, if you're, it triggers the need for your brain to use more parts of it to record all the different variables, I suppose, and to engage deeper. So the complexity. Awe. So if you are amazed, then, well, it makes you more focused. Basically, it's interesting. So it's naturally free attention. Getting answers right. So, like, the point is that when you get things right, the dopamine is there so that it triggers pattern recognition. And because of that, it makes you focused. So, like, you get answers right, you get the next one right, and then as you get more right, it makes your brain is like, okay, remember that. So that when you see something similar, your brain, it triggers the pattern. Risk taking. So if whether it's gambling, whether you're doing something that may be dangerous, requires more attention. So so in summary, it's like things like pull your attention, right? So yeah. Curiosity. If you're curious about something, then that means you're looking for more information, which makes you more focused. Passion. Passion leads to purpose. And then purpose leads to mastery or something. I don't know. It leads to? Anyways. So when you're passionate, focus. And then I don't know what's going on with purpose, though. I don't remember. Anyways. Next. Sell to high budget customers. Why, Alex? You can do the same work for people who have more money if your work is the kind that brings, like, the value you bring isn't dependent on what they're doing. So, like, it's gonna add value regardless of what they're doing. Then it's just gonna be worth more money if you're doing it for someone with more money. I mean, the simple example is this. Let's say you do 100 push-ups. Maybe that's worth $10 of effect on your body. If a billionaire does 100 push-ups, that's probably worth like $100,000 of effect on his body, because, like, he's a higher leverage person, so you can like it sounds stupid, but it like if they could buy a pill that gave them all of the benefits of doing 100 push-ups without having to do it, they would pay 10,000 times more, but the benefit is the same. And also, they wouldn't haggle or be like, but my friend, or like bring up random stuff. They'll be like, I wired the money. Send it over. Anyways. That one was by Alex, of course. To not have can be a process. To not have something can be a process of conditioning you to desire that thing and appreciate that thing. But you don't have to first not have it in order to condition yourself to desire and appreciate it. Okay, so this one is a bit roundabout, but let's say the things you want now are you're more likely to appreciate if you had it. And it could be things you had before and lost. And also, if it's materialistic, then when you get it, you also feel empty. But that's a different topic. Like if you just want like a Ferrari or something, and you get a Ferrari, it's probably not gonna make you happy because you're gonna be disappointed because you expect it to be all that. But like if you wanted, I don't know. Let's say you were let's say you wanted a master's degree and you work very hard throughout your courses and then you get your master's degree. So the process of wanting it makes you appreciate the master's degree. But if you were to not try at all and then they just gave you the master's degree because you went through the classes, you wouldn't care about it very much. And then if we go back, like if they just handed you the master's degree without you going, like let's say you were able to just buy it or something, and you just had it, then you wouldn't care very much about it. Or if we were to say, let's say you wanted clean running water. If you didn't have it for a while, you would like it a lot more when you got it. Again. So if you look at the things that you don't have now, don't feel that it's unfair that you don't have them. Feel that this is what makes them worth having, I guess, or something like that. I don't know. Okay. Some people confuse anxiety for chemistry. Okay, so this one was talking about the relationship. This was the relationship book. I've done it now. I've returned it. It was just an audiobook. Okay. So apparently, and I guess this is like anxious attachment theory or something. I've heard the phrase. I didn't actually look into anxious attachment theory, but in the book did mention confusing anxiety for chemistry. So for example, if you can like someone, but like you're anxious, you don't know what's going on with them, and you confuse that with your desire for them, and therefore you think that you had chemistry with them or something. I don't actually know how it works, but apparently that's the thing. So here are some myths they mentioned about having the spark. Myth number 1: if the other party is a good partner for you, then that means you would feel an immediate spark with them when you talk to them, like first meeting, first impression. Myth number 2: if you feel a spark with them, that means that it is a good potential relationship. It could just mean they have good charisma or good talking ability. Myth number 3: a spark is sufficient for a long-term relationship. In the short term, it makes you just ignore the differences. You still have to put in the work to make it actually work long-term. And also, if you focus too much on the spark, then you're going to make your long-term decisions during a period where you're feeling a way that you're not going to feel long-term. I think like mathematically or scientifically, from a neurochemical perspective, it's comparable to crack, the period of infatuation. So like you're basically completely deluded during that period of time. Okay. Attraction from familiarity. So apparently, actually this one isn't apparently, this is pretty unsurprising when I heard it. The more familiar you are with someone, the more likely you are to find them attractive. And that's because there is comfort, security, and safety, I suppose, to like, because like it's kind of like the human tendency. Like, let's ignore relationships, right? It's like we don't really want to change jobs. We don't really want to change lifestyles because we have comfort in what we already do simply by the virtue of we know what's gonna happen every single day, because we hate it's similar to what I mentioned. We hate the cost of change. If something requires change, the mathematical cost we put on it, like from a pros cons perspective, it's much heavier than an equivalent cost if we know it and we're familiar with it. Which is actually relevant to something else that I am not going to mention today. But that is relevant. Anyways. So yeah, attraction from familiarity. Past, present, and future discussion about marriage. So apparently, because of we have a bias that makes us naturally believe that other people will think the same way we do across most important things. Like, that's a bias we have. And a large reason for this is probably just because of historically we just lived in a tribe and there was no room for us to really believe different things on important topics, because all the important things we believe were just told to everybody in the village, like every generation. I'm making shit up right now. It makes sense to me, but presumably that would be why. But anyways, nowadays that's not the case anymore. So apparently, the couples will get married, and then later on, when like they have arguments about, like, for example, how many children they want because they didn't cut it clearly, or what religion the children were, because they may have difference in religion, but they just assumed that their children were going to follow theirs or something. Discussions about money, discussions about sex, whatever. These were the topics mentioned in the book. I didn't even write them all down. There were others. Okay, this is no longer about that book. Okay, let's see. It is not the strongest or smartest species that lives. It is the most adaptive. Oh wait, no, hold on. This is not at the end of this was also mentioned in that book. Okay, so she quoted Darwin. It is not the strongest or smartest species that lives. It is the most adaptive to change. And I guess they will bring it up in the context of the changing relationship, because relationships will change over time. I mean, that's a lot of years, and people change a lot over that many years. Or something. I'm not sure. And, actually, this is actually very relevant. Okay, yeah. So, first of all, we will change a lot. We should expect to change a lot, and we should adapt to those changes. And also, the other party will change a lot. We should expect them to change a lot, and we are going to need to adapt to those changes. And then they mentioned the end of history illusion. Okay. So basically, it's like we have the illusion that history, like we look at our past as history, and now we are at the present, and going forward is not going to be the same as history. So, for example, if you ask somebody, have your beliefs changed drastically over the past 10 years? Yes, of course. Do you think your beliefs will change drastically over the next 10 years? Probably not. And that's a bias, right? That's a huge fallacy. It doesn't make sense when you just compare the two answers alone. So yeah, the end of history illusion. We need to be aware that we're going to be changing very rapidly. So yeah, so the point she mentions is that you should actually draw out a set of clauses, like to like clarify the things you agree or disagree on, the things you want that are important, the things you believe to be important. And it's basically, she describes it as a non-legal contract, and that you update at whatever period so you can go through it. And by clarifying things out, you're more likely to uphold yourselves to whatever standards that you set for yourselves, rather than leaving your ideas as this amorphous blob, which tends to be a very, very long-going trend in terms of actually making your life cleaner, basically, where you turn these amorphous ideas into something more concrete so that you can edit it, make it more precise, and make it more actionable. Living by design. And that way, it also, when you do this, you expose yourself to the harsh winds of truth, right? It's like when you have these ideas, your thoughts about yourself, about the world, whatever, in your head, they are impervious because you haven't fleshed them out. And they're not exposed to the cold truth once you have to look at it face to face and go, that's so fucking stupid, that makes no sense. Or like, this is missing, or that statement is stupid. So it's like, when you give them form, they become exposed to reality and start to fall and will start to fall apart unless you make it, stronger. They fall apart very quickly if they're just based on this vague feeling. Okay. And she wants you to, update it frequently with proper discussions. Okay. And also about, like, often talk about how you feel about the relationship and what you're thinking about it, so that it's not, you don't just have all of these assumptions floating around amorphously, of course, because bring it out. Because here's the thing, we live very cerebral lives. Like, we're very stuck in our own head. And the thing about this is that it's a bit like dreaming. And this sounds really stupid, right? Here's the thing. We think we are conscious all the time. Like, we do. It makes sense. Why wouldn't we think so? And I'll give you a simple example. Sometimes, if I write code at like 12 o'clock, midnight, I look at it at like 3 p.m. the next day, I'm like, what did I do here? At the time, it made sense. It made sense. I'm like, and the code, like, it wasn't like super bugged or anything. It just was formatted in a way that didn't really make sense to me anymore. I couldn't believe I did that. Like, the me that looks at it at 3 p.m. understands it completely differently than the me that looks at it at midnight. And when you wake up from your dream, you immediately realize, and you try to remember what your dream was. It makes no sense. But when you're in it, it makes perfect sense. And that's kind of what it's like when you try to vocalize, verbalize, or write down ideas and thoughts. Like, you think it makes sense. Like, it makes so much sense in your head. But when you try to explain it, you're like, holy fuck, it makes no sense. Like, I was just dreaming. My brain is just, like, wandering around. It's all just kind of feelings. It's not concrete. It's just like, it feels like it kind of makes sense because your brain is lazy. Anyways, all of this isn't like I don't want you to focus on relationships here when you're listening to this, because I'm not mentioning this in the context of relationships really. I'm just listening to the book. And I have no relationship experience, so none of my takeaways are actually directly about relationships. I'm just trying. The thing is, I'm really looking like information about like neuroscience, happy chemicals, passion, relationships, careers, entrepreneurship, leadership. I'm looking at all of these, and when I, all of it really, they're not really that different. They're not as different as I would have thought. I'm not. That doesn't make them easy, but also doesn't mean that they're that complicated. For example, they're not easy. Like a lot of the time, people will ask, like, what's the shortcut to getting a six pack? What's the secret to becoming a millionaire? What's the side hustle that's gonna make me a millionaire with 2 hours a day? It's like what's the secret to this? What's the secret to that? What's the secret to a perfect relationship? What are the 10 red flags to look out for? And when I bring this up, it's like, you know, that's stupid. Like you know that's not gonna give you an answer. Nobody, like, if I list these things, nobody's gonna go, yeah, of course, just, you know the secrets and you'll be rich. But like it's easy to think that there are, when like you say, like, maybe you see X person's business skyrocketed and you might think, oh, he was at the right place at the right time, oh, he was lucky, or oh, he had a great idea. But it's never actually that. It's like, if you stop there and go, okay, what are the things you can do to be at the right place at the right time? What are the things you can do? Like, what is it like winning the lottery? Do you think all of these people are just lottery winners? Do you think, what was the last one I mentioned? Like, if I just gave you this great idea, how would you turn it into $1 million? Like, if you had a great idea today, would you turn it into $1 million? Probably not. So it's like, you know these instinctively, but you also like feel inclined. Like you naturally are very. So I'm gonna mention this note, and I'm not gonna go deep into it. I will mention it again next time, and I'll probably talk about it a bit more, but. I'm gonna say this. So the similarities I find is that it really is all about the way you see the world. It's like how how closed in are you by your understandings and perceptions today? How much of your decisions are made based on the feedback you get every single day, or based on what you think you thought you knew a month ago or a year ago? How fast do you iterate on your actions and update your information? How active are you in changing your mind when new information is presented and analyzing the new information? How active are you in applying your self-criticism? Now, I'm not saying I'm good at all of these things. I'm not saying that I've solved the formula. But like, that's the direction that everything clearly pushes me towards, which I'm trying to do more of course. But yeah, it's not. like I'm not reading this to become a relationship guru. I'm just like taking information about different topics that I find interesting to enough to listen to, because no, like there's so many more topics that I could listen to, and I could probably like find this and I could probably find all of the information fascinating as long as it's presented in a way that's interesting to me, even if I'm not anywhere near using that information, but just very, very interesting to listen to. My favorite ones are the ones that bring up examples and how these things affect human behaviors, and examples of human behavior that are influenced by these kinds of biases. And my favorite one is when they talk about survivorship bias and the ways in which we miss vital information because we don't see the ones that don't survive. For example, like you don't see all of the people who are, you know, just happy, successful in their 9 to 5 full-time job. I mean, by now it's probably not actually 9 to 5. They're expected to do about 40-hour work weeks, but now they just have tasks. A lot of it is remote. They get the things done in an amount of work that's expected for them to do in 40 hours. It's not really 9 to 5 now most of the time, and whatever. But with their 6-figure incomes, their happy families, like these, they're not out here on social media. They're not out here like talking about hustle porn, talking about crypto, talking about social media, talking about like politics, conflicts, talking about the fun facts about restaurants, talking about what's on the news, etc. So it's like that's also kind of like that's just survivorship bias too. Anyways, I've been talking about random shit for too long now.